Now, of course, on Mondays, we like to bring you information about cars, the things that you need to know if you're driving around a city like Lagos. And today, I have Ayo Sofela joining me from Automedics, as usual. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, today, we're going to be looking at spare parts for your car. Should you be buying new spare parts or should you be buying used spare parts? And Ayo Sofela is going to be giving us a little bit of advice, very, very important for car owners nowadays. Look, we live in a country where spare parts can be very expensive. So people will just say, okay, your mechanic knows it's a language now. They'll
exactly. The used parts are better. They last longer.
They last longer and all of that. They'll tell you, sometimes I've seen where the used car parts are more expensive than the new ones. They'll tell you Tokunbo is better
and it will last longer.
Talk to us about the difference between used and new spare parts.
Okay, let's start with the new spare parts. Like we all know, new spare parts are supposed to be coming from the manufacturer.
Yes.
But then every car has a lifespan, which is 10 years. So after 10 years, the manufacturer will sublet the manufacturing of those spare parts to someone else. Which means if you're driving a 2006, take for instance RAV4, you're not going to get OEM spare parts as brand new. So you buy a spare part that's probably produced in China, you put it on your car, after 2 months it's gone bad. People went through this over and over and over again. It got to the point where they started buying the used parts, which are the original parts that have been taken off another car.
Right.
And they put it there and they find out that it lasts longer than the brand new one. So you find people growing the mentality that used parts are better off than brand new parts.
Right.
But in the real sense, your brand new parts should actually be the ones that are the best option.
Now, okay, in a country like Nigeria, like I said, sometimes you encounter issues like you know, typically what you would find, especially with spare parts and all of that with your car, whether it's your tires, external parts or internal, having to do with the engine. If you buy a part, you then discover that maybe after 2 months or after 3 months, it goes bad. You do it twice, you then decide that, you know what, let me just go for a used part.
One, exactly.
Usually it would last longer. But what would you advise?
Personally, I advise to go for original parts.
Original
brand new parts. I always advise that because we have a lot of substandard Tokunbo parts in this market, as we all know. Tokunbo parts where it's taken off a car, it's bad. The guys we have in the market try and refurbish it and get it to look all okay again. You put it on the car and then you have the same problem. So personally, when I'm fixing cars, I advise to go for brand new. And we know how we get original brand new parts. Only in some circumstances will we say go for a used part. And that's when we've searched for the original brand new part and we cannot find it. So you have things like your lower arm. You will not find a genuine lower arm in the market. So we would always say, okay, buy a Tokunbo.
So genuine lower arm, even for relatively newer cars?
Exactly, for relatively newer ones, except maybe the likes of the Hondas. The Hondas, you would find brand new parts for Hondas. Even the 2017, 2018, you will find them in the market. But for Toyota, it's a little bit difficult to get original parts like what I mentioned, the lower arm. Now, when it comes,
once a car is beyond a certain number of years, it's not likely
you get original parts. You get China, you get Korea, you get Japan, but the original OEM, that's the equipment manufacturer's parts, you would not get it in the market.
Okay, so now you're saying that you would advise that for every spare part that you're buying, it should be new.
It should be new.
It should be
brand new, original.
I
like emphasizing on the original.
Now I've seen parts where there was a time when I was using a brand new car in 2012, and then after I think 4 years, we had an issue with the steering. There was something I can't remember what they called it.
Okay.
Anyway, the new one was about 250,000.
Okay, I'm thinking it's your steering rack.
Yes, maybe, yeah, probably a steering rack. Anyway, it was 250,000. And but the guy said that he could do something with it and for 60.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
So
in that kind of instance, now 250 is very expensive. It's almost like the price of some new cars.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? Not new cars, of another car. But in that kind of instance, a lot of people would rather park the car and just keep it than to spend that kind of money at one time on getting a brand new part. So what would you advise in that kind of instance? Would you say, okay, temporarily let's get a Tokunbo part or used part, until the person is able to afford something better.
Yes, I do that at times, but I also give the owner the implications of doing that.
Yeah.
Take, for instance, what you mentioned now. There are ways you can fix the steering rack that will not even cost you up to
That
that
much.
250, yeah.
Right.
But it might not last
Too long.
too long. So we would sit the customer down and tell him and say, we'll fix this thing for you, but this is the lifespan you would have after we fix it, which means you eventually still have to buy the new one, but this will serve you for so and so
Oh,
period.
okay. So I like that. So that's giving somebody an option that, okay, you know
Exactly.
what, this will last you for 3 months, but during that 3-month period, try and save money to get a new one.
the new
Okay,
one.
so that's some good advice for our viewers out there. So if you are having an issue with your car, it's better to get a new one, a new part to fix it. But if you can't, temporarily,
Exactly.
Ayo Sofela is saying you can use a temporarily
used parts.
used part, which is really, really good. Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
joining us and talking about some of these really, really important issues. Spare parts for cars are very expensive, you know, and especially with the dollar rate changing and all of that. But hopefully you've learned a thing or two today, and we'll see what else we're going to have for you next week. We're going to take a quick break now and be back with our SME segment on Wake Up Nigeria.
So